This is our first attempt for some sort of broader campus update, sort of in person. We're going to hear from several speakers today, and then next month we'll be on the Health Sciences campus with other speakers. We're going to just try to alternate so that people don't have to travel as far if they want to come in person. So the goal of this is to just have you have a chance to hear from the leadership team, to just hear updates, some of the things you may know. I mean, one of the things I think that happens in every organization is we think we communicate because we know what's going on, and we just assume you know what's going on. We send out little emails, but it's sometimes not enough. And we thought this would be a chance for us to come together, to talk about things. And they're handing out cards for the people that are in the room, and we're going to take those questions, and then OCM's going to kind of put them together if we have time to answer questions. And for those of you virtually, you can submit your questions to presoff, presoff, at louisville.edu. Whoa, that was not easy in this morning. And what we want to let everybody know is if we don't answer the questions here, we're going to send out the answers. So that way people can be heard and ask their questions. And if there's 5 questions around the same theme, we'll answer that theme. So that's sort of what we're planning to do. So today I'm going to give a very brief update just for some global things, and then Gerry Bradley will give you some academic updates. Lee Gill will talk to us about his efforts and the efforts of the staff in DEI, and then Mary Elizabeth Miles is going to talk about HR updates, including some things about the comp study. And then next month we're again going to have academics, because in case you didn't know, that's why we're here, is academics. It is our core, and research and budget. Plus, Gerry just begs to talk to groups whenever he can, so that works out really well. So I hope you've noticed that Gerry and I have started doing monthly newsletters that aren't really chock full of facts, but just sort of tells you what we're thinking about or what we see as important on the campus. And we're going to continue those, but this is just an open venue that we hope you'll end up enjoying. So you can write your questions down or go to the email address that I'm not reading again because I did it once and that was enough. So I just wanted to talk about what has been the priorities in my role as interim president. And there are 2 priorities from my perspective that we work on every day. And the first, of course, is student success, right? If we say the core mission is academics, then student success has to be what we focus on. You know, as we're looking at numbers of students that will be going to college, those numbers are shrinking nationwide. And the way that we are a successful institution is after we've spent all the money to recruit students, we actually get them across the finish line. And if you look, and Bob, you can cringe if this isn't correct, but if you look at the profile of our incoming students, we should be graduating them in the high 60s. And thank you. I appreciate the amen. If anyone else wants one, just give them to me anytime. I can use them. And so our graduation rate is like 61.6. So we've got a ways to go, meaning we bring that talent in, but because of finances and because of lack of belonging, those are the 2 main reasons we lose students. So student success is really important. And in my last missive to the campus, or the one before, we declared this the year of retention. You know, as it is written, it shall be done. And we all have a role in retention. You have a role in retention if you don't ever interact with a student, because doing your job at the highest level makes the organization work. And then our students have a smoother transition from high school to college. Our employees feel valued because processes are fair and transparent. So student success belongs to all of us. And so we want to thank our enrollment management team for having enrolled one of the largest freshman classes in recent history. So that's a really good, and that's really worth an applause for those folks. And so we want to recruit those students, but we want to keep them. We do okay from first to second year, then we lose some from second to third year, we lose them from third to fourth year. If we can get them through the third year, we can push them across the stage. So think about your own job and what you can do to help retain our students. Sometimes it's as much as seeing a kid in line, someone saying, how's your studies going? Because they go, you see me, you saw me, I had somebody ask about it. So that's really important. The second priority, and I know this will disappoint everyone in the room, is employee compensation, right? So as Mary Elizabeth talks about the compensation study, we are working to make sure that we can gather together as many dollars that are general fund dollars so we can meet the compensation study, and that we can give raises in a way that isn't like the roulette thing that you play. Is it a 1%? Is it a $1,000 bonus? Can we do something that regularizes it so we can keep our best people here? So that's been really the things that have mattered to me the most, and the leadership team talks about it every week. We really focus on how we can squeeze more dollars out of the budget. I've been lobbying the Council on Post-Secondary Education, that's our higher ed authority, and the legislators that I've been meeting about whether they would allow some of the performance funding money that we get to go to our base. So right now, all the money we get is one-time money from that. So we went from $3 million, because we were second in the whole system, to $15 million, all one-time money. Now, money is money, but you can't put compensation, because I can't give you a raise and then come back next year and say, did you enjoy that? Because you don't have it this year. And so I've been trying to sell that to our legislators, and it really matters because if they're in the southeast of Kentucky, I can sell it because Eastern needs the money. If I'm in West Kentucky, Murray and Western need the money. So it's not just a U of L thing. And so we're hoping to get some traction with that. I just want to talk about some ribbon cuttings that happened. If you haven't been to the green space around the BAB, you should go, because yes, one day this week, I don't know what it was, we cut the ribbon on the pavilion that recognized the class of 2020. You know, they were the only class that didn't have a real commencement, and those of you in the academy, the start of school and commencement are the days that you cannot be a pessimist, right? And so, but they had to have a virtual one. So it's a lovely place to gather and reflect and just sit and be, and you can see students and employees out there all the time. And then on the 18th, we're going to cut the ribbon on the Center for Engaged Learning. That's something that came out of the strategic plan, and it's focused on engaged learning for all of our students. That's one of our goals. And then we also dedicated the Denny Crum Hall, which is on Eastern Parkway, that will have it already has them, student athletes and sports administration students. I got to go over there, ran into a basketball player, and he invited me to see his room because it had just passed inspection. And for those of you that lived in a dorm, and I'm talking about a dorm, this is not your dorm, can I tell you that? It's probably nicer than the first 3 apartments you ever had, so really nice. Just briefly, I was going to highlight what we got from the state, just so you know where we're using the money. We got money for an engineering building. We got $65 million, and then the campus has to raise $10 million for the total cost of the building at $75 million. It's going to be sited not behind the speed school proper, but there's a road and then another building. It's going to be behind that one. So the drawings are underway. We got a $600,000 appropriation to create a center for military-connected students, and that is a renovation is underway to have a one-stop shop for those people, a lounge, offices of everyone who deals with them so they don't have to kind of figure out how to navigate. They come to us as adult learners in a different way than many of our other students, and we want to make sure they feel welcomed and that they know, how to navigate that. We got $10 million for Bucks for Brains. If you remember, Bucks for Brains is the program where we match dollar for dollar with the state for endowed professorships, endowed chair positions, endowed graduate research fellowships and assistantships. And so there have been applications from the units, and now the decisions are being made on where do we say, yes, you can go raise the money for an endowed professorship. We got $200,000 for the dental school. It was for a piece of equipment down in Clay County at the Redbird Clinic. And I don't know what it is, you can tell them, but it involves the teeth. So, and then the last thing that we got, which is really great, we got $80 million in asset preservation. That's money to repair, to fix our HVAC, to put on new roofs. But the one thing that the legislature said is you have to have some skin in the game. So we had to raise 30 cents on the dollar for each one of those dollars. And we did that by putting in a facilities fee for students. So you're going to see a lot of work over the next 2 and 3 years, and they're looking carefully, and they've got the whole list of jobs that are going to happen. And some of you that are in buildings that have been around for a while, hopefully you'll see changes in the HVAC system. They're putting... And they're putting on new roofs, so if you have a set of buckets in your office, maybe you won't have to have them after that time. So Dan's going to give you a much more detailed update on the budget. If you're really interested in what the budget looks like, Finance created our budget document, and it's on the Finance website. It's a PDF, about a 35-page document. You would understand where all money comes from and where all money goes, so I would suggest that you look at that. A few highlights from Uofl Health. They just started, along with School of Medicine, a pre-medical magnet program at Central High School to just interest students and make sure they take that college-rich curriculum in high school. They cut the ribbon on the state's only dedicated heart hospital, so that's an area of excellence for us. And then we are seeing the impact here on campus of their commitment to their employees with the tuition program. And it looks like this fall we had about 360 dependents or employees on our campus, and that's fantastic. So we've been working with the Board of Trustees and the Association of Governing Boards and the John Gardner Institute for Undergraduate Excellence. So those 3 entities to work with the board on a Student Success Equity Academy. And it's to educate the board on what they need to ask us to hold us accountable for diversity, performance, retention, and all that. And we've been working since April and will continue for another year with that. We just had a retreat a few weeks ago to kind of talk about what else do we need to do in this arena? You know, how can the board help the campus? And then how can we inform the board about what they know? So it's been a really great engagement with that group. And then we'll probably roll out the strategic plan. The board wants one more whack at it. And I'll just tell you a little bit of what we did. You know, we had the 3 pillars of learn, work, and invest. And so we changed them. It's still learn, primary one. It's still work. But we added discover because we're an R1 and we ought to be discovering every day. And then rather than say invest, we changed that to connect, because invest sometimes means a one-way street and connection means we are all in this together. And we all know if we succeed, Louisville succeeds, and vice versa. It takes the city and the campus to make Louisville a thriving community. And one last thing I want to mention is, you know, this is a campus of transitions, right? And if you're new, go ask somebody and they'll tell you about it. But what we've noticed is we're a low trust campus. You know, when you get behind somebody and Neely, you're behind her. I came to work with Neely, and 8 months later she's gone. It's like you think, well, I'm kind of going to hold back a little bit. Now, it's going to be a wait and see. And we've done that a lot since Ramsey was our last long-term leader. So when you don't have trust, it's like you're not going to jump in as deep. So with the Center for Child and Family Well-Being out of School Social Work, they're working with us to do a trust inventory of the campus. So they're going to do a survey, and please do it and have your colleagues do it. And then they're also going to do focus groups by college and unit, and we'll roll out the results as we get those for each college, and then we'll do some interventions. I mean, Gerry and I have tried to talk more, and actually maybe talk more with substance, because I talk a lot, but that's not enough, and we want to find out what those barriers are and how we can build a trusting campus, because we are amazing, but we get held back sometimes by those kinds of things. So you'll see that coming on. The whole project will be done at the end of next year, but you'll hear your results sooner, and we'll be giving facts about what's happening as we go along. So those are some of my updates. It's been a great year. It's been a great start to the fall. Students are so engaged. They're so excited to be back, and so I want to thank all of you for what you do every day. And I'm going to turn over to Gerry.
Good morning, everyone. Glory's a hard act to follow, but I'll try. Well, thank you all, and I just wanted to, it's so great to see you, and clearly, the last 9 months, as I've been in this role, it's been a whirlwind of meetings and getting to know people and visiting across campus, and I've gotten to know many of you during the course of that, and it's been a pleasure. I mean, it's just been great to get to know more about the campus, and I really appreciate all the hard work that the faculty and staff have put into making our student experience so important, and really what I wanted to do was, 9 months ago we were going through COVID. I mean, it just seems like in some ways yesterday, and it seems like an age, but I mean, the mood across campus is so much more vibrant, so much more positive than it has been when that period in January, and I think we've kind of come a long way, so I think it's a great credit to all of you here in this room, so thank you all for doing that. I thought I'd start off in a couple of areas, just give you some updates on personnel within the Office of the Provost. I want to announce, let you know that Mr. Brad Anderson has taken over as the Interim Vice Provost for Information Technology and Chief Information Officer. Brad's been a loyal employee of Uofl for over 20 years, and we're delighted he's taken on this responsibility. I'd like to thank Mr. Rian Khan, who was previously in that role, who resigned this last month or so, and he's gone back to Boston. We have a search going on for the Vice Provost for Online Strategy and Teaching and Innovation, and that is currently well underway. They actually have a committee formed, they have finalists identified, and they're actually going through the initial screening interviews. So hopefully we'll have an appointment in that role. And that was for those of you who didn't know what that person was, Gail Rhodes was actually the person that this job is sort of mimicked around. So it's a little bit more expanded than from just the Delphi Learning Center because it's much more broader. From the standpoint of dean searches right now, we've got 2 going on, one in Arts and Sciences and one in Kent. And they're going really well. We're actually doing the initial screening in November and December. So the ad has been posted, we have search committees formed, and we're actually planning at the end of November and early December to actually whittle it down to about 10 candidates where we'll do kind of virtual interviews with the idea that then in-person interviews will occur shortly after that. The School of Nursing, College of Business, and the SPHIS, which is Public Health and Information Sciences. That one will go on for the spring of 2023. And then we finally have the College of Education. Dean search is scheduled for the fall of 23. So President Gonzalez has talked a lot about what we've been doing in our office, within her office and our office, about student retention and success. And certainly we've made this the year of retention. Why is this important? We've talked about, it's our mission, right? We want every student to come here and be successful and to ultimately graduate. But we also know we have many, many challenges. And one of those challenges is the fact that unfinished K-12 education, due to the past 3 years of the pandemic, we've seen this impact our students. Our incoming students are not as prepared as they were 3 years ago. And we can see that in all of the stats that are going on right now. For instance, this is just yesterday they released the latest ACT scores, and it shows that the average has dropped to 19.8, which is the lowest it has been since 1991. That's actually a 0.5 drop in 1 year. And again, just another snapshot of what this pandemic has done to our students that are walking into our campuses. And so this is a huge drop. And this is not just impacting our seniors and our juniors and our sophomores. It's going all the way down to our K3, our third grade students. If we go back to the ACT score, 42% of those students didn't make the ACT benchmarks in any area, okay? And so what we're seeing in third grade is that in math and reading, students are 4 to 5 months behind than they were 3 years ago. What that correlates into is that if there is a drop, if you're not reading proficient by the end of 3rd grade, you have a 1 in 2 chance of not making it to high school. Okay, so it increases exponentially. So we've got problems not only with our students walking in, but this will be with us for a long, long time. And so this is why we have made student success and student retention so critical. So I have, worked with the deans to establish retention goals. As Laurie talked about, we're trying to move the needle. So not only are we're dealing with students that are further behind, we want to actually increase our retention rate. So we've got to triple, quadruple all of our efforts. And so what are the things that we're trying to do? Well, we've established goals for deans to work on retention, both within their colleges, okay, and what we're doing centrally. And let me talk a little bit about what we're doing on the central level. So what we have done is we've that's an Irish English word, we've added additional resources to our intervention, our academic intervention program. So our REACH program is a very, very successful program. What we found is that our students who most need it don't go there. It's the students who are 3.0 and above. And so what we've done is we've implemented a pilot this fall to actually encourage students to take advantage of REACH and to take advantage of it early. Because we know if we can get these students early in week 2 or week 3, that's what makes the difference between a student ultimately being successful. If you wait until week 8 or week 9, they're halfway through the semester, and sometimes that's when the student is going to drop out. So we are actively engaged in that. We have added additional sections in math and reading this fall. Okay, so that we can create more opportunities for students who have come in both those areas, which I've mentioned are already weak, to actually get them in this semester to get those experiences back up to where they should be. So these are initiatives that we have done. We've also added, additional classes and sections mid-year so that our advisors and our student success coordinators have more options for our students to do. So what can our faculty and staff do? Well, we all know it's engagement. Our students need to be engaged. We're really asking our faculty to really engage with your students, ask them how they're doing. We've asked our folks in the dorms to be more engaged with our students, to be more monitoring their behavior, because we know that students that engage early tend to be more successful. So it's really critical that we all take ownership of this. It's a village that makes this happen, not just the provost or the success coordinators. It takes all of us to make a student successful experience in college. I'd like to talk a little bit about mental health. We know this is a very challenging time. As a father of 5 children, I've experienced it. My own kids going through their education. I had a son who, 2 of them were graduating from college when COVID hit, and they were into remote learning. I had a senior in high school who lost his high school experience, his graduation, because of COVID, and it had mental impacts on them. We do know that the data is staggering. Okay, mental health is a real need out there. It's a real need among our staff and our faculty, and it's also a real need among our students. They did a survey recently, and they polled 2,000 students, and they asked them, when was the time when they had their best mental health, when they felt the strongest? So in the fall of 2022, which is this fall, 27% of students felt that they were at their best mental health, okay? That's not a good number. That's not a good number. But the same time last year, it was 9%, okay? So we are trending upwards, but we have a lot to do. And we've done a lot centrally. We've hired additional counselors to come in and support both campuses. Even in the School of Dentistry, we have one housed internally within the school now because of the need within our own body of students. We also are faced with a hiring problem because more and more mental health counselors have left the profession. And so this has really made us where we have positions now that we are advertising for that we cannot fill, but we will continue to strive to get the support services that we have. We have a national organization coming in right now in October, JED, who are going to help us develop a strategic plan around mental health that will support us in the years ahead. We're also looking at things like courses where there's high DFW rates, which is D, Fs or Ws or withdrawals, because we want to know why there are such variances in some of the sections, because we want to know, is it the teaching experience that's causing our students to drop out? So we're looking at a lot of things for around student success because it's so important to what we do. I want to talk a little bit now about faculty and staff diversity. You know, this is something that Lee and I have been working with, and Cherie Dawson and Mem has been working with the staff. But with the faculty hiring process, we are really looking intentionally at how our climate is internally within our organization, what our hiring practices have been across the board, and what that looks like. And we're looking at diversity to make sure that our committees are trained the appropriate way. So we've kind of identified really 4 clusters around diversity and hiring. The first is clearly the recruiting and hiring process, okay? So the first thing we've done is we've kind of made sure that we've inclusive job descriptions. We've made sure that committees have got broad training in diversity and equity, and we've had actually sessions on that committee members are expected to attend. We've also looked at onboarding and developing faculty. Do we have the right programs in place for faculty development and mentoring? And do they get the right support during their early years? Because those clearly are the years that matter the most. We're also looking at the tenure and promotion policies that we have internally within our units to make sure that they're inclusive, okay? We know that women and minorities have been negatively impacted by COVID, and we've got to make sure that we are not discriminating in our policies and our documents and our personnel. And then, you know, the whole idea of an inclusive climate. Are we a climate that is welcoming? Okay, are we putting things in place? Are we making sure that when people come here, they feel like they're a part of a community? It's not just how we make them feel within maybe our department or within our college, but also within our city. Okay, it can be a pretty lonely spot for folks to come. And I really want to thank Cherie Dawson-Edwards and Douglas Craddock, who's here somewhere in the back here, who've been helping in the whole diversity, equity, and most importantly, this young man here who joined us very recently, who's going to be following me here. But I want you to know that we are monitoring all of those projects to make sure metrics are being met, and we're reporting them out to the Board of Trustees monthly when we meet. And the last thing I want to talk about is the Arts and Sciences Strategic Planning Committee. I know a lot of people have talked about that was, you know, something the provost put together so that they could make cuts in the college. That is the last thing on my mind, okay? The College of Arts and Sciences is our biggest unit on campus. It's the one that feeds all our other programs. It's critical for the university that college grows. If that college grows, we all grow. And that's why we're committed to having this committee to come up with solutions to make the college move stronger, move forward, not cut people. We can't cut our way out of problems. We have to grow our way out of problems. So that's all I kind of wanted to have an update on. So with that, I'm going to introduce Dr. Lee Gill, who has been a pleasure to work with him.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Jerry. Appreciate the nice comments. Let me first start off by saying I was sitting in my office at a place called Clemson University, probably about the second week in May. And the phone rang, and it was one of those headhunters. Y'all remember them, right? And start discussing with me an opportunity at a place called the University of Louisville. And frankly, the University of Louisville had not been on my radar screen. I certainly knew where it was located. I've always wanted to be a visitor to Kentucky. And I also knew that there were people in Kentucky and at the University of Louisville that were doing some amazing things. In fact, we at Clemson University had actually copied some of the great things that the University of Louisville had been doing and was doing. And the more I spoke to this individual, the more excited I became regarding this opportunity. And of course, I said, yes, I'm very interested. I knew that Louisville was only approximately 5 some hours away from a place called South Bend, Indiana, where I was born and raised. And I knew that there were great assets in this community, like the Muhammad Ali Center and many others. And so I said, yes, I would be interested in having a discussion. Then I came, met with search committee members and faculty and students, and I said, wow, this is a pretty amazing place. and I think I might like to join that team. Then, after my initial interview and meeting with all the leaders across campus, I sat there at Clemson, didn't hear anything back for 1 week, didn't hear anything back for a second week, didn't hear anything back for a third week. Now, I'm thinking I'm pretty good at what I do, and if I'm gonna be frank with you, I'm thinking there must be, something wrong. And then I happened to pick up one of the Chronicle of Higher Education's newspapers and saw that Neely was leaving the university. And then the next part of that, I saw that she was taking her chief of staff, Michael Wade Smith, with her. And both of them, I thought, were quite frankly outstanding leaders, and I looked forward to possibly being able to add to the university by working with them. Another week went by, and all of a sudden I looked at my phone, and I'm seeing these calls from Kentucky, University of Louisville. I see one call from Jake. Then I see another call from Jake. And then I see a call from Dr. Lori Gonzalez. And that's the one I was waiting on after I had looked at all of these numbers and then listened to the messages. And I had an opportunity to speak in depth with Lori. And frankly, I was excited. The same excitement that I felt when I first was notified about this opportunity. I was excited with the conversation that she and I had about what her goals were and her vision around diversity, equity, and inclusion. Her sense of wanting to make this university not just continuing in the path of an outstanding R1 university, urban, but wanting to focus on social mobility and changing the lives of the students in Louisville, in Kentucky, but for the betterment of the entire country. And that equally so excited me. And she said to me just a couple of words. She said, "Lee, what will it take to get you here?" Don't y'all like hearing that? I like when that's said. And of course, we continued that conversation, and everything that she said and everything that we had discussed that day came to fruition, and I was able to join what I think is one of the best teams, leadership teams, that I've ever worked with. And having been in higher education now for some 25 years, when I say this is an outstanding leadership team, that's not blowing smoke. That is very sincere, and I mean that with all of my heart. Having arrived here and beginning the work around DEI, we came in on a Sunday, which was May 15th. The moving trucks pulled up to our home. By the way, that's a whole nother subject. We're right in the seller's market, and we put about 3 or 4 different offers out on homes, and people coming behind us, putting a lot more money down than we had ever even imagined. So we made the decision to rent for 6 months as we continued to look for a home. But came in on that Sunday and at work in my office bright and early on Monday morning. And frankly, it has been a whirlwind ever since. When you hear about drinking from the fire hose, certainly we've had that opportunity to be able to drink from the fire hose. But let me just share with you our first 100 days of arriving in this community and meeting not only faculty and staff and students across the college, across the university, but meeting with so many other community leaders, both in the K through 12 realm, business, as well as community. Several of my friends back in Greenville, South Carolina, some of whom had actually been working here in Louisville. One gentleman by the name of Mr. Carlos Phillips, who was the former president and CEO of your Chamber of Commerce before you changed the name, had already introduced me to so many leaders here in this community. And that was fantastic to start with that list of names. Also, Sadiqa Reynolds, your president and CEO of the Urban League. Mark Morial, who's the national president of the Urban League, had sent her a letter saying that Lee Gill is coming to the community of Louisville, and he's going to need your help and your support, and you should meet with him. Now, I will say to you, in Sadiqa's case, she had received emails and phone calls from about 5 other people that she needed to meet with me. And when we finally met, she said, Lee, I don't know who you were or what your background was, but all these people telling me I need to meet with you, I just wanted to see who you were. And so somehow the meeting got kind of moved up for us to meet immediately. But let me continue here for my first 100 days. Having the opportunity to meet with university leadership, board of trustees, community leaders was tremendous. Coming into a new community, you immediately want to begin to learn as much as you can about culture, about climate, about individuals that you need to work with and collaborate with, especially in higher education and wanting to drive change, not only within the university, but also the community. One of the first things we did, and Dan Durbin is not here today, and working with our President Lori and with Jerry, we were able to repurpose several positions within our division, as well as working through endowment funds, be able to hire additional people. I don't want anyone to think that Dan Durbin went out and just found some new money, because I know y'all all be knocking on the door if that was the case. What we were able to do is repurposing positions, using endowment funds, thinking outside the box as to how we can build the infrastructure of staff to drive change across this university. Once again, I want to say this is a tremendous institution doing a great many things, best practices across the board. But at the same time, we from a DEI perspective need to move out of silos between our HSC and the Belknap campus. And part of doing that was to ensure that we had the staff in place to drive the type of change that our president has made a commitment toward driving. So we repurposed positions. We created an Inclusion and Equity Council, replacing the former Diversity Council and adding corporate and community leaders to that council. As you heard Jerry point out earlier, he and I and his staff, Doug and Cherie, have been working on this diversity DEI from certainly the faculty standpoint of view, but also all across this campus. This new Inclusion and Equity Committee is actually chaired by Jerry and myself. What that allows is for discussion to take place and on an immediate, in-the-moment point, that we're able to make decisions, that we're able to identify strategies to help move the university forward. And we don't have to wait until the next meeting, but we can make those changes and make those decisions at that very moment. What is key, I want you to understand this about having community partners as part of this new Diversity Council, is that the president of the Urban League will be on the council, the president of the NAACP, the president of our Hispanic Alliance organizations, as well as our AAPI organizations, all being a part of this committee, so that we have engaged the broader community in the processes and decision-making of the university. So the community is aware of what we're doing, as well as we are aware of what the community needs are. That is a best practice, and I think that will bode well, as you shall see, as we will move forward. We're creating right now new pipelines with 7th and 8th graders from the school district. We have been meeting with people from the school district talking about this program. We will be starting with 7th and 8th graders. I think all of you educators are aware that the sooner you can touch these young people, the sooner you can introduce them to education, new career opportunities, you have the opportunity of bringing them more so, and I know Lori is very committed to this, we want them to come to, guess where? University of Louisville. We are the institution in the state of Kentucky with the diversity as well as with the community base of first generation students and Pell eligible students that we can really be able to support driving change within the state of Kentucky. Working with the Office of Academic Planning and Accountability to improve the climate survey process for standardization and relevancy. Bob, your team has been a tremendous help on moving us forward in terms of climate surveys, and there will be, quite frankly, a new climate survey that will be rolled out soon. We want to be able to assess our faculty needs, our staff needs, and our student needs around DEI. We've decreased duplication of resources and increased collaborations to become more laser focused on strategies that will help drive change across this campus. We're developing pipeline programs for our Pell eligible students. This is a big deal to our president, to our provost. We often talk and tout that we have 40% of our students that are Pell eligible. That's a great number. We want to take that one step further. We want to be able to say that we graduate more Pell eligible students than any other university in the country. And why shouldn't we not be able to accomplish that? Because we have them here. First generation Pell eligible students will be a tremendous focus of moving the university forward in that direction. And then we're going to be more intentional about enhancing diversity planning and training. This is part of our repurposing of positions. I think some of you have already heard. That the changes that we're making in our division, and part of the reason that we're making those changes is to be able to drive the necessary focus in this area of Pell eligible and first generation students. We're establishing a corporate chief diversity officer advisory board made up of chief diversity officers from some of America's largest corporations. In the case of Louisville community, we have Yum Brands here. And the Chief Diversity of Yum Brands is already committed to being the chair of our new Corporate Chief Diversity Office Board. And I'll end on November the 9th, Dr. Freeman Hrabowski will be the inaugural speaker for the President's Forum on Inclusive Excellence. Please join us on that date of November the 9th. It is a way to focus the university's attention, and not only internal, but external to the external community, about the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's been a fun 5 months, and I'm looking forward to more fun in the future. Thank you all.
Well, good afternoon, university community. It's not quite afternoon. Good morning. It is my pleasure. I have a couple of updates for you, and then we're going to talk about the compensation study, which Lori did such a great job teeing up. So the first thing I want to share with you, and if you don't remember anything else today, I want you to remember this. Tomorrow is the last day for open enrollment. Tomorrow is the last day for open enrollment. And there are two important things that I want to share about that. One, this year, if you do not make any changes, that's okay. You will not get a confirmation that you didn't make any changes. We talked about this. I know, I feel like a broken record, but I'm going to just say it because I have your attention. If you have an FSA savings account that you want to have money in for next year, you have to go in and make a change. It automatically defaults to 0. So if you had it last year for $1,000 and you want it to be $1,000 or whatever it is for next year, the system will not automatically do that. You have to go in the system and you have to make the change. And you will get a confirmation because that is a change. So please know that you will not get a confirmation if you didn't make any changes. If you don't, you'll have exactly what you had last year, except for FSA money, right? And that you have to make a change to your FSA amount if you want it for next year. Okay, so I got that out of the way. The other thing I'm going to share, so this is hot off the press. In the coming weeks, you all are going to hear about our new Eap vendor. I want you to know that we heard you. Gerry and I have lots of conversations about our well-being, as well as the leadership. We do mean it when we say that we care about, our students and our employees and their entire well-being. And we know that that isn't just your mental health, right? It's not just your physical health. It's not just your financial health, right? You have many facets of that. And so one of the things that we've heard over COVID and especially this year is that we needed more flexibility with the Eap vendor that we have. And so we have some great functionality that we're going to talk to you about. You can use your phone to get an appointment. There are different ways that you can talk to counselors, and there are some additional resources that they will have that we don't have today, which are just enhancements to what we already have. So I want you to know, and I hope that you all see a theme forming here. And it's funny because we didn't actually, the four of us who spoke today, we didn't get together in a room and say, okay, we're going to talk about this and this and this. But I just loved, as I heard each speaker come up, see how we are just building upon a couple of themes, which really are centered around why we're here, which is our students and their success, and the people who are here to serve them so that they can take care of us many years later, right, and take over the world and be great and make this world a better place. So having said that, without further ado, I'm going to go to my next slide here. And somebody did me a solid by changing the colors. Whoever did that, I love you. Thank you. You are a good woman, I know. So before I'm going to just talk to you about where we are. I'm not going to, obviously we could stay here all day and talk about the comp study. It is very complex and it has lots of facets because it's important and we have to get it right. So let me just say that. So to just lay out the expectations of what I'm going to do, I'm going to tell you where we've been, where we are today, and where we're going to land. And I'm going to tell you when we're going to get there. Okay? But before I start, I want you to know that we have a comp study website that is dedicated to this. So what you're looking at, in addition to a whole lot of other things, it's already out there for you to see. We are in the process of updating it because we are closing out the phase that we're in and moving into another one. And so if you look today, it might, look very different in a couple of weeks because we're working on those updates, okay? So the compensation study, I think I haven't heard those two words. I hear I hear it all. I dream about it. I do. And it is important. And remember what I said to you all today. I won't get into those details because there's a lot. It's because we have to get it right. And I will tell you, when the president stood here, she told you she had two priorities. One was our student success, and the other is that we have fair and competitive wages. And I think that's pretty phenomenal, right? So the first thing I want to say is that we started this journey. Now, when you look at this, that circle for number 3 indicates where we are at this moment. And we started this journey in actually, we signed the contract in April 16th of 2021 is when we signed the contract with Gill. They are a vendor who are known for and famous for all the work that they do with higher ed institutions as it relates to compensation and many other things. But, obviously we're talking about the comp study, so that's where they have their credibility. We did have a search committee formed of many different people at the university representing everyone's interest, and this is the vendor that we landed on. But it's important that I share that date with you because it really is a 2-year project. We always said 18 to 24, and we had no idea how much work and heavy lifting that we had to do. So we started there. Part of what we did in that first phase, in addition to getting the committee, so you all need to know there are faculty and staff representatives on these committees, and they've been with us on this journey the entire time. We also have a steering committee that has our top leadership, which includes our president and our CFO and some others. But I just need you to know that we have certainly not done this in a vacuum, and that we have kept everybody's interest at the forefront. So we formed that committee. That's how it started. Probably, I think we had our first meeting maybe just a few weeks after we signed that contract. When we moved into the staff classification work, it was after we developed with the committee in phase one. We didn't have a compensation philosophy for the university, and so just very quickly what that means is that we didn't have any guiding principles on how we would administer pay or make pay decisions for our employees. That's kind of a big deal, right? And so it took us a little while to get there. And so what I need you to know about these, as you all are able to look at them, they are bullets. There's about 8 to 10 of them. It is a living document, right? So as priorities shift or as the culture changes, those things might change, but again, they will not change in a vacuum. The other thing that we had to do, we had to create the benchmarks that we would actually compare ourselves to, and that's the work that happened during that phase. And so that looks very different, and we've talked to different leaders for different groups. Staff is much different than faculty, but there are overlaps. And so, again, this is all very complex and detailed, and so I want you to know that we will make sure, because we've actually made an investment. Lori has made sure that this vendor has added to its long list of things that she wants done, is that we have a very clear communication plan so that we can explain these things to you in much more detail. And so I have to just kind of pinch myself behind this podium not to get into too much detail. So if you would just keep going with me. The next step, which is the job architecture piece. You all may have heard about this. This is the biggest lift for us. We had more than 3,400 unique job profiles for our employees. I'm going to say it again. 3,400 unique job profiles for our employees. So the system that we live in today, which will change in this new architecture, is that we had job descriptions for people, not for jobs. So if we had someone that was a program analyst in IR, I'm just getting good. I'm getting good eye contact, so I'm going to just pick on you. And we had the same position maybe in OCM. The job descriptions weren't the same. So if you all can just imagine, it has taken us the bulk of this time to get all the job descriptions, to find out what people are doing, and then try to build a system, right, that creates career progression opportunities for our employees in something that makes sense. And it's just something that happened over time, but I want you to know that that's where most of this heavy lifting has come. We have had almost 200 formal meetings to discuss what that looks like, and we have talked about every single job profile on this campus as it relates to staff. So I just want you all to know there has been a lot of work that has gone into this, and where we are now is that we're going to take the information that we have about what our employees do, all our individual staff do, and we're going to go to market. And we're going to look at what those job responsibilities are that we've captured, and we're going to compare that to what the market says those jobs, where those midpoints are for those jobs that are actually in the market. And then at the end of the year, so now so when I talk about the different Q1, Q2, and Q3, and I don't think that we put them on here. I just had them in my notes. I'm talking about calendar year if I talk about what quarter we might be in. But by the end of the year, we should have that information back, and that's going to close out the phase that I show you that we're in. And then we are going to move to phase 4, and we're going to start looking at what does the salary structure for the university need to look like based on those markets that we benchmark against, the actual work that our employees do, and then build a structure, which I'm so excited about, so that our employees very clearly can see, this is where I am today, and this is the career path that I might have in the same discipline of the work that I do, or where are other career paths where I can use my transferable skills to move over to a different place, and what does that career path have? We don't have that today. We kind of pretend in some places where we might have, job titles that have kind of been made up over the years to kind of fill in gaps so that people could be rewarded for good work. Well, we don't want us to have to depend on people, having their supervisors try to create positions for our employees so that they can progress. We want you to be empowered on the front end and know what those career paths look like, but also what the expectations are to move from one place to the next, whether that be in the line that you're in or in something else that you might be interested in and you have the skills, knowledge, and ability to transfer that to somewhere else. So it really is, it's more than just, and the next phase that I'm going to talk about that will happen is the vendor will then look at, so we've gone to market, we've compared the job profiles that we have at the university with what the market says based on the benchmarks that are established. And then the next piece is they'll look at where everybody ends up. Now we're going to look at human beings, and we're going to do an equity assessment to see, do we have any gaps? Do we have, men and women working alongside each other with the same years of experience, but maybe one is getting paid less than the other? We're going to look at that from a lens as it relates to our race and our ethnicity. So, and we are then going to look at all the benefits that we have at the university. That's the total rewards piece. We don't talk about it much. We just hear those two words, comp study. And we're going to look at our benchmarks, and we're going to see where those line up and see where we land and how rich are our benefits and where do we have opportunities to possibly change those and make them better for our community based on the things that you want. And then in Q1 and Q2 of next year, we will begin to communicate what those results look like. The leaders will sit at the table and talk about what the big decisions need to be made to get us where we need to be in terms of market and in terms of any equity issues that we find, right? And then, have those hard discussions about Lori's already made it clear that we want to be competitive and we want to be fair and we want to be transparent, right? But how do we roll that out? Because I'm just going to tell you all, it's going to take us more than 1 year to do that, just saying, right? But what does that look like and where do we start? And I have 2 minutes left, and this is what I'm going to close with. We've already started that work thanks to you and what you've told us. By raising our minimum wage for our employees to $14.75. We did that on July 1. And in January, we plan to move them to $15. And so one of the big lifts that we have as we're in this comp study is making sure that we look at all those compression issues. And what I mean by that is when you lift your floor that way, you have to start looking at like positions and supervisor positions to see if we created any inequities in terms of who makes what. I just want you to know as I close that I appreciate you. Tomorrow's the last day for open enrollment. And there is a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and it really has been something that we have been honored to be a part of because it is important. And I just need you to know that there are a lot of people who are doing their very best to make sure that we are a great place to work. So thank you so much.
Also, I want to thank you all for coming. Was this a worthwhile use of your time? All right, we will continue. We'll have our meeting in November to hear more news. If you have questions, make sure that somebody gets them, John Carmen on this side and Jesse and John on this side. We will answer all your questions. We had a couple come in virtually, and we'll get that out within a week, not the week. All right, everybody have a great day, and thanks so much for coming. We really appreciate it.